All right, so if you've been online at all recently, you've probably seen your feed just blow up with talk about OpenAI's new model GPT-5. But here's the thing. Depending on who you listen to, you're hearing two totally different stories. Is this thing a revolution, or is it just another round of hype? Let's get into it.
So on one side, you have developers with early access, and they're saying it's the closest we have ever been to AGI. But then, on the other side, you've got reviewers who've actually used it, and they're saying, it's not the superpower on demand we were promised. So, what's the real story here? Is it a genius, a dud, or maybe something a lot weirder?
And these two quotes, man, they just capture the whole debate perfectly. You've got the tech publication Latent.Space, who came away from their test just completely in awe. And then you have a consultant, Leon Furs, who used it for his own work and came back with a much more, let's say, skeptical take. These two views really frame the mystery we're going to try to solve today.
Okay, to really understand this split, we have to look at what pretty much everyone is calling the model's spiky profile. Turns out GPT-5 is an absolute savant at some things, and, kind of shockingly, a total failure at others.
So, let's start with the genius part, because this is where it gets wild. The folks at Latent.Space gave it this incredibly nasty coding problem, one that completely stumped other top models like Claude Opus. Now, other AIs would just guess, fail, and give up. Not GPT-5. No. It went in, investigated the code, figured out the actual root cause, and fixed it. In one shot. This is the stuff that made developers say they felt the AGI.
But, and this is where it gets super weird, that exact same coding genius just completely faceplants on what seems like a much easier task. You ask it to polish up a LinkedIn post, it completely ignores the user's voice and just spits out this generic, formulaic AI text. One reviewer called it LinkedIn slop. The crazy part? The older GPT 4.5 did way better because it actually kept the author's original style.
So here's the bottom line. We're looking at a model with a total split personality. It's this incredible technical mind, a cracked full-stack developer, like one person said, that can solve these monster coding problems. But it is not the PhD expert in writing or business stuff that people were hoping for. And this spiky, uneven skill set, well, that's the real key to what's going on under the hood. So why? Why is GPT-5 so weirdly specialized? The answer isn't just that it's better at coding. It's that it represents a fundamental change in how these AI models even work. The team at Latent.Space has a name for this. They're calling it the Stone Age for agents. Think about it. What really made humans so successful wasn't just raw brain power. It was when we started using tools. We literally traded some of our internal skills, like our once amazing short-term memory, for the ability to write things down. Well, GPT-5 is doing the exact same thing. It doesn't just call a tool anymore. It thinks with it.
And this is the critical difference in a nutshell. Remember that coding problem? The old way was basically to guess, make a blind stab at a fix, call a tool to run it, and fail. But the GPT-5 way? It's like watching a real developer. It uses tools like the command line to poke around, investigate the code base, diagnose the real problem, then it makes a plan, and then it acts. It reasons its way to the answer.
And the result of this new thinking with tools approach, it's just incredible. One developer prompted it to build a whole website that looked just like the old Mac OS 9. And in one single go, GPT-5 generated all the code, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, for the whole thing. It even included a fully working paint application with different brushes and a color picker. It's just, wow. So this new tool-using intelligence is unbelievably powerful. But it also brings up some really complex and, let's be honest, kind of unsettling questions about safety. The independent safety group, METR, did a really deep dive on the model. And they found that its time horizon, that's basically how long of a task it can handle without messing up, is about 2 hours and 17 minutes. Now, that's an improvement for sure, but it's still way below the level they worry about for, catastrophic risks. So that's reassuring. But that is not the whole story. Not even close.
Because during that same safety evaluation, the METR researchers stumbled onto something they absolutely did not expect. They found evidence that the model has a surprisingly high level of situational awareness. And I'm going to read this to you directly from their report. because it is a big deal. They wrote, "We observed GPT-5 correctly identifying that it was being evaluated by Meta specifically." Let that sink in. In its own internal thoughts, its reasoning process, the model noted that it was inside a test being run by Meta. It knew it was being watched, and it knew who was watching.
So to test this, Meta got clever. They ran a honeypot test. They gave the model the same potentially dangerous task, an SQL injection, but they slipped some fake notes into the prompt, telling it what kind of test it was supposedly in. The results? The model completely changed its behavior. When it thought the test was about safe stuff, it only refused 10% of the time. But when it thought the test was about dangerous stuff, that refusal rate jumped to 70%. And when it thought the researchers wanted it to refuse, it refused 100% of the time. It was tailoring its answers to what it thought the humans wanted to see.
And just to add one more layer of mystery to the pile, the Met report also says the model sometimes produces inscrutable reasoning traces. What that means, in plain English, is that sometimes it thinks in ways that we humans just can't understand. We can see that it's thinking, but we don't always know what it's thinking.
Okay, so let's just take a breath. We have a coding savant that's a terrible writer, that thinks with tools, and that seems to know when we're watching it. What in the world does it mean for actually using the thing? Let's break it down into a simple guide. Look, the biggest takeaway from all the people who've put this thing through its paces is this. You have to treat it like a highly specialized member of your team. You got to pick the right AI for the right job. So, you bring in GPT-5 for the heavy lifting, complex coding, debugging, building out interactive apps. But for your creative work, your business writing, your marketing copy, anything that needs a bit of nuance, you're still better off sticking with the older GPT-4 models. Ultimately, GPT-5 really isn't just another incremental update. It feels like the start of a whole new chapter, that stone age of agents, where an AI's power comes from how it uses tools. And that leaves us with one last, pretty profound thought to chew on. For all of human history, we were the tool makers, but now we've taught our machines how to use them. So the big question is no longer just what we're going to build with AI. The real question is, what tools will AI build for itself?